Hello, so today I am presenting on chapter 27, which is writing reader-centered progress reports. So that is to say, writing progress reports that report on a project's progress that is written for an audience of multiple audiences. So multiple people might use this progress report for a number of different reasons. So the first concept associated with this chapter is this idea of typical writing situations and the types of reports that accompany these typical writing situations. So there's two basic types of progress reports. And the first basic type describes to your readers about your progress on one particular project. So a reader, which again could be a number of different audiences, might use it to evaluate if that the work you're doing is in itself being approached soundly and practically. A supervisor might use it to view that an employee is on schedule with a particular project. A team or an employer might also use it to gauge the likelihood of a project success and see if it warrants continued time and resources and manpower. A reader might use it to evaluate data towards a certain outcome related to their particular interest in relation to the project's purpose. Another reader might use it to accelerate or halt work on a project based on the preliminary findings found in an initial project report. Now, the next type of basic progress report describes to your readers your work on all of your projects. So of course, this brings the lens out a little further since you're looking at multiple projects. And a reader might use this type of report to check that a department's work is proceeding satisfactorily. And they might use it to observe connections that are useful to other ongoing and related projects. And again, they can use it to interpret the data, anticipate changes in the data, and make according adjustments. Now, again, what I'd like to stress, and what the text seems to stress, is that both these basic types of progress reports can have multiple types of audiences for the same report. So, for example, the same report could be read by departmental supervisors, other project specialists, researchers, and any others who are privy to and who would benefit from knowing this information that's included in the report. Additionally, these different audiences might have the same interest in reading the report, or they might have a different interest in reading the report depending on their position and their position in relation to the project you're working on. Now, the next related concept is this idea of the questions readers ask most often. So because our readers of our progress reports rely on them to inform their future work and their decisions, it leads them to, of course, ask many questions about the reports themselves. So these are some of these common questions that readers are apt to ask about the project progress reports. And since we are orienting these progress reports to be read by readers, then we need to consider these as well. So the first question is, what work does your report cover? And so we, of course, need to say what the project is and when it's taking place, or the time periods that it's taking place. So they have all these need to be very clearly defined. What is the project? When is it happening? Of course, the basic logistics. What is the purpose of the work? So of course, we need a purpose for a project, a reason for it to exist, a tangible desired outcome we want to achieve with it. And so the reader is asking this question because it can help them see relations to their responsibilities and to other and current future work of the organization. So it can give them a very personal view of it in this context, and it can give a kind of holistic organizational view as well. The next question, is your work progressing as planned or expected? So again, the readers are using your progress reports to determine if adjustments are needed in the schedule or the budget or the number of people assigned on a project you're working on. So this report can help determine and make those according changes and adjustments. The next questions, what results have you produced? Excuse me, what results have you produced? So the reported results in one period can inform subsequent work periods. So of course, that's very important to continue to go on a smooth trajectory and to be able to make those adjustments that make sure to have a smooth deliverable of whatever that desired outcome is. Additionally, any relevant results can be used to inform and help in other projects in the moment before the overall work is completed. So another researcher might be able to use data from your current project report to be applied to another relevant or related project. The next question, what progress do you expect during the next reporting period? So again, we want to gear our readers' expectations to allow them to be able to focus on management concerns like managing scheduling and budgeting and expected results, again, allowing them the runway to make change when necessary or adjustments. How do things stand overall? So of course, our readers want to know where actually is our current progress from a holistic point of view, where are all the pieces falling at this moment? Then lastly, what do you think we should do? So readers will want to know about our current or potential problems and our recommendations on how to address them in our progress reports. And of course, that's important because we want to be clear and transparent and identify any current or potential problems in order to be able to problem solve and make sure we address them before they run out of control. And additional ideas on how to improve the project are also welcome in relation to this question and its context. Now, the next related concept for this chapter is this idea of superstructure for progress reports. So essentially what it means by superstructure is one might contextualize it as a template or a sort of format, but essentially it's this formula of how one can approach writing these progress reports, because this structure, this superstructure, can be an effective framework for answering readers' questions about your project, right? So they're going to have questions naturally, and we'd like the structure to be able to elicit that rather than leave a reader hanging, or in retrospect, so your reader can easily navigate the components of your progress report to pick out the information they need and be able to locate it easily and effectively. So the different components of this superstructure are the introduction. So again, what work does this report cover? Of course, the actual project, the time period, and along those lines, what's the purpose of the work in order to inform everybody's relation around the project, the reader's relation around the project, and so on. This next component of the superstructure is a section of facts and discussion. So this idea of facts and discussion has two components. So one is this idea of past work. So is your work progressing as planned or expected, right? Now that you've made some progress, is it going according to plan, or has something come up? What results have you provided? What relevant data has been gathered? What actual tangible outcomes have been affected during up to this point of the progress report? The other component of this facts and discussion section is this idea of future work. So what progress do you expect during the next reporting period? Again, the current period can inform subsequent periods, and one, as the author of this progress report, can inform the readers as to how to adjust their expectations for the next reporting period. This next section, this idea of conclusions in the superstructure, this third component. So in long reports, this section is addressing how do things stand overall? Again, one of those key questions was, how do things stand overall? We want to give our reader that insight, right? Give them that holistic view, let them know exactly where the project stands overall. Recommendations, what do you think we should do? What should the next action steps be. So what tangible, concrete things do we need to do to keep this project running on track and to utilize our resources to the utmost and to not waste any resources as well? What do we need to do? What are our recommendations? So that is the essential superstructure for these progress reports. Lastly, this concept that I'm covering, number 4, this last concept number 4 that I'm covering is this idea of tone in progress reports. So tone is important in any kind of professional communication. And what the text stresses in terms of tone, of the kind of tone that a progress report should have, is that the tone should overall be persuasive. And why it is this particular tone of persuasiveness that we are trying to adopt, it's because we want to convince our readers that we are doing a good and effective job. And this is important for a number of reasons. Because projects may be discontinued or canceled if readers aren't feeling that the project isn't progressing satisfactorily. And that can be especially critical when starting a new job or position. You haven't built up that credibility yet, and people are giving you a chance, and you want to make sure you're saying, yes, I know how to run a project, I know how to report on it, I know how to keep it running smoothly. So this persuasive tone is critical to instill that confidence, to build that confidence, and to continue the successful trajectory of the project. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about being persuasive in this context in terms of the text. So what we don't want to do in terms of eliciting a persuasive tone is be overly optimistic in our tone or inflate our tone when trying to be persuasive. And why don't we want to do that? Well, it's because it can make statements sound like an advertisement rather than a professional communication when we're saying like, oh, everything's so great, everything's so awesome. And so that sounds more like a commercial pitch than a professional communication or report, progress report. And right, because it instills that sense of, oh, this is too good to be true. And that's exactly the kind of sentiment it can breed. It can make your readers suspicious rather than agreeable. It is too good to be true. This sounds way too optimistic, and it does sound exaggerated or inflated. It's hyperbolizing almost. And another downfall of this kind of overly optimistic tone, it can risk unnecessarily disappointing your readers if things don't turn out the way you seem to be promising they're turning out in this report. And if those things happen, and even if they don't, just this tone that's embedded in their mind, that this distrust, this suspicion, it can cause your credibility to diminish quickly, even if things are going well. And especially if things are not going well and you promise them to go well, it just damages and cripples one's ability to build credibility. So what do we want to do in terms of being persuasive? So in terms of being persuasive, what we do want to do is we want to adopt a straightforward tone and approach. So we want to be straightforward about problems and potential problems. So again, that our readers can take appropriate measures, make appropriate adjustments, so that we can problem solve and adjust the reader's expectations and our own expectations accordingly and practically. So we can sound pleased and proud about our work, and we definitely should, but we don't want to hyperbolize it or exaggerate that as well. And there's definitely a way through this straightforward manner to be proud of our work and have it reflect without it being hyperbolized. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. So thank you very much for listening to it, and I hope everyone has a good day. So thanks again.